"What the hell is going on in my kitchens?" Gregory Wallace muttered, slapping the latest customer review onto his desk. Gregory had bought the 10-location diner chain 8 years ago, back when it was failing under careless owners. He'd turned it around, revamped the menu, invested in better equipment, hired a solid district manager to run day to day. But things had started slipping. Reviews were getting colder. Rude staff, dirty plates, slow service. Something was off. He hated relying on sugar-coated reports. He wanted the truth. So he shaved his beard, dyed his hair a dull brown, and picked up a pair of thick-rimmed glasses. A fake name, Nick, and a made-up backstory, recently laid off, looking for kitchen work. He chose Store 4, a busy location in the city's industrial district. It had the worst recent reviews. Gregory had never met the crew there. Turnover was high, and he'd left hiring to district staff years ago. No one knew what he looked like anymore, especially not with the disguise. Hell, even his LinkedIn didn't have a photo. He showed up early Monday morning wearing a cheap polo and jeans. A woman with a clipboard and tired eyes met him by the back door. "You're the new guy?" she asked. "Yeah, Nick. I was told to come in for training," she sighed, waving him in. "I'm Kira, I'm the manager. You'll be on dishes and prep for now. Just follow whatever Jesse tells you." Gregory nodded, stepping into the sizzling, clanging chaos of the kitchen. Jesse, the shift supervisor, was in his late 20s with slicked back hair and a permanent frown. "Great," he muttered when Kira introduced Nick. "Another newbie, try not to screw up." The kitchen was understaffed. A server named Tasha was darting between orders and rolling silverware. Miguel, the grill cook, was sweating bullets trying to keep up with 20 tickets at once. And then there was the dishwasher, thin, pale, barely 20, working in a fog of steam and suds. "Hey," Gregory said, stepping beside him. "I'm Nick." The kid looked startled. "Oh, I'm Caleb. You okay?" Caleb nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just busy." He kept scrubbing pans with a robotic rhythm. Gregory watched for a few minutes. Caleb was fast, but every few minutes, Jesse would drop a tray near him with a loud clang, barking, "You missed a spot again," or "Jesus, are you blind?" Caleb would flinch each time but never talk back. No one said anything. By noon, Gregory's shirt was soaked. His back ached. He'd worked hard before building his company from the ground up, but it had been years since he'd scrubbed a fryer by hand. He tried to keep his head down, but he couldn't stop watching how Jesse treated Caleb. At one point, Gregory accidentally bumped into Jesse while carrying a stack of pans. "Watch it," Jesse snapped. "You're not a damn toddler." "Sorry," Gregory said, keeping his tone flat. Jesse rolled his eyes. "You and Caleb are a perfect match. Maybe you two can start a side business, the Slow Bros." Gregory laughed lightly, trying to blend in. But Caleb didn't laugh. He just kept scrubbing. By 3 o'clock, the lunch rush had passed. Gregory and Caleb were elbow-deep in dishwater. Caleb was quieter now, moving slower. "You need a break?" Gregory asked. "Nah, I'm fine," Caleb said, though his hands trembled. A minute later, Jesse appeared again, holding a plate with a faint smear on it. "Seriously?" He held it out like it was radioactive. "You call this clean?" I ran it through twice," Caleb replied. "It's still dirty. What part of clean dishes is hard to understand?" I said. I ran. "Don't talk back," Jesse snapped, stepping closer. "God, you're useless. You're lucky we're short-staffed or I'd have kicked your sorry." "Hey," Gregory said, stepping in. Jesse turned. "What? He's doing his best." "Oh, look at you trying to be a hero," Jesse scoffed. "You've been here one shift, you don't know jack." Gregory didn't reply. He looked at Caleb. His face was pale and his lips trembled. He suddenly dropped the plate he was holding. It shattered on the floor. "I'm sorry," Caleb whispered. I'm sorry," then he crumpled onto the floor, gripping his chest. "Oh my God," Tasha shouted, rushing over. Caleb, can you hear me?" Gregory dropped to his knees. "He's breathing, but shallow." He turned to Jesse. "Call an ambulance." Jesse just froze. Gregory stood, voice sharp. "Now," Jesse finally pulled out his phone and stepped into the alley. Gregory stayed with Caleb, pressing a damp towel to his forehead. Caleb's lips moved faintly. "I'm sorry," he whispered again. "You don't have to be," Gregory said, his voice low. You didn't do anything wrong. The paramedics arrived minutes later. Caleb was conscious but barely speaking. They loaded him onto a stretcher. Kira ran in, wide-eyed. What the hell happened? Gregory stood slowly, chest burning. We need to talk, he said, but not here. He glanced at Jesse, who had slunk into the corner, silent. Gregory walked out the back door, heart pounding. He hadn't expected this, but now, he had to see it through. The next morning, Gregory arrived at the same back door, muscles still stiff from the previous day. The events with Caleb replayed in his head during the drive-in. He'd stayed up late calling the hospital. Caleb was stable, but under observation for a stress-related cardiac episode. 19 years old, no history of heart issues. The nurse had used a phrase that stuck with Gregory: cumulative trauma. Kira met him again, clipboard in hand, but this time her tone was measured. You're Nick, right? He nodded once. She motioned him inside. You'll be on prep today. Jesse is not in. What happened? Called off, said he's under review. That come from corporate. Gregory didn't answer. He followed her in, noting the tension in the air. Miguel was setting up at the grill, his jaw clenched tight. Tasha was restocking coffee cups, checking each one before lining it up. You okay? He asked her quietly. She didn't look up. We all saw it. We just didn't think it'd go that far. He moved to the prep station, where a guy in his 40s with a faded tattoo sleeve was chopping onions with methodical precision. Name's Rob, the man said without looking up. Guess you're the new temp. Nick, you been here a while? 2 years. Longer than most. I just keep my head down. He paused, then added, don't ask questions, don't end up like Caleb. Gregory started peeling carrots beside him. You ever see Kira step in? Rob shook his head. She doesn't see much. She's usually upstairs balancing hours, fighting with corporate over labor budgets. It's a game of survival for her. Gregory kept peeling. Doesn't seem like much of a game. Around 10:30, the pace picked up. A delivery truck arrived late and the walk-in was still half empty. Rob went to unload while Gregory helped Miguel stock the grill station. Miguel worked fast, barely speaking, but kept glancing at the empty dish pit. You guys got a backup for Caleb? Gregory asked. Nope. So who's washing today? Miguel shrugged. Looks like you, man. Gregory stepped into the dish area. Within minutes, the backlog was clear plates crusted with grease, pans left to soak overnight but never scrubbed. The machine was running on fumes, the sprayer nozzle leaking pressure. He rolled up his sleeves and started working through it, one tray at a time. By the time lunch hit, the entire kitchen was in overdrive. Tasha took orders up front, moving with clipped urgency. Miguel barked for sides. Rob ran low on sliced peppers, and Gregory had to work double speed to keep up. No one complained out loud, but the stress hung over every station like smoke. At one point, Kira came down from the office and stood near the line, arms folded. We're falling behind, she said. Miguel didn't even look back. We're 3 hands short. We can't afford overtime. Then we can't afford customers either, he snapped. She didn't respond, only walked away. Gregory turned to Rob during a brief lull. This normal? Rob wiped sweat off his forehead. Only since the last 2 dish guys quit. Jesse ran one out in a week. The other didn't even finish their first shift. I thought HR did exit interviews. Rob gave a short laugh. You think HR cares about dishwashers? By 3, they'd survived the rush, but the damage was done. 2 customers had walked out. A third complained about a 20-minute wait for eggs. Gregory stepped outside for a minute. The alley behind the restaurant was quiet, except for a few crates stacked near the dumpster. He called the hospital again. Caleb was being discharged that evening, but the nurse warned that stress-related incidents often had long-term effects, especially if the environment didn't change. Back inside, Kira called a staff huddle near the walk-in freezer. Everyone gathered, still wearing aprons and grease-streaked shirts. Corporate's sending someone next week, she said. Until then, I need everyone locked in, no slip-ups, no drama. Miguel crossed his arms. Locked in. We're running on fumes. Then drink more coffee, she said flatly. Gregory stepped forward. What's the plan for backfill? We're not approved for new hires yet. So you're just hoping no one else collapses? Kira's eyes narrowed. You want to keep your job, Nick. I want to know how this place stays open when everyone's 5 minutes from quitting. Tasha cut in. He's got a point. You talk like we're replaceable, but no one's lining up to take our spots. Kira looked at her, then at Miguel, then back at Gregory. Something in her posture shifted like a crack forming in stone. I'm not the villain here, she said quietly. I'm trying to keep this place from getting shut down. You think I like cutting hours. You think I sleep easy knowing we don't have backup. Then say something, Miguel said, to someone who can fix it. She didn't answer. After the shift, Gregory waited until the others left. He followed Kira back to the office, a tiny upstairs space with a fan that barely moved air and a desk cluttered with time card printouts. You're overwhelmed, he said. She turned in her chair. Took you 2 days to figure that out. Why didn't you deal with Jesse? I filed 2 reports. HR bounced them back both times, said it didn't meet the criteria for verbal abuse. He was targeting the most vulnerable kid in the building. I know that now. You knew it before, she leaned forward. What do you want from me? I'm running triple shifts with less staff than we had 2 years ago. Corporate only looks at the P&L sheets. They don't see the floor. Jesse kept the line moving. That was all that mattered. Gregory's tone was sharp now, until someone ended up in an ambulance. Kira looked away. He stepped closer. You're not a bad person, but you stopped protecting your people. She rubbed her forehead. I can't fix this alone. You won't have to. The next morning, Gregory returned in street clothes. No glasses, no hair dye, just himself. Tasha was refilling condiments when she saw him. Her eyes widened. Wait. Miguel walked out from the back, caught the exchange, and froze mid-step. Gregory raised a hand. I'll explain everything. Staff meeting in 10. Within minutes, every employee was gathered in the dining room. Gregory stood at the center, facing them without the disguise. I'm Gregory Wallace. I own this company, and I've spent the last 2 days seeing what I should have seen a year ago. Silence. No one moved. I watched one of you collapse from stress. I watched the rest of you carry a broken system without help. That ends now. He turned to Kira. Effective immediately, Jesse is terminated. A formal report will go to HR today. I'll follow it personally. She nodded once, eyes low. Tasha, you're promoted to assistant manager. You've held this place together when no one else would. Her mouth opened slightly, but she said nothing. Miguel, you're getting a raise. And starting next week, we're hiring 2 new line cooks and a full-time dishwasher. Gregory looked around the room. No more silence. No more looking the other way. If you're mistreated, I want to hear about it. If the system's failing, I want to know why. You are not disposable. You never were, he paused. And if that means rewriting every policy from the top down, then that's what we'll do. The following week started before sunrise. Gregory pulled into the gravel lot behind store 4 just after 5, this time in slacks and a button-down, no disguise. The shift didn't start for another hour, but he had meetings to prepare, calls to make, and a promise to keep. He'd cleared his week to stay on site, not as a visitor, but as an embedded operator. It was the only way he could rebuild trust not just with this team, but with himself. Inside, the lights flickered on one by one with a hollow buzz. The air was still thick with that grime-soaked scent of fryer oil and industrial cleaner. Gregory walked through the kitchen slowly, noting the dents in the prep table, the cracked tile near the walk-in, the broken rubber seal on the cooler door. None of this had been in the last maintenance report. The door opened behind him. Tasha entered first, tying her apron as she walked. Her expression was guarded, not skeptical, just cautious. You don't usually see owners at 5 in the morning, she said. Trying something new, Gregory replied. You all right handling service today, depends. That dishwasher position still empty, filled yesterday. He starts in 2 hours. I asked HR to fast-track onboarding. She nodded, eyes steady. All right. A few minutes later, Miguel came in, followed by a new face, a compact man in his mid-50s with silver at his temples and a thick pair of hands that looked like they belonged to someone who'd built houses, not grilled burgers. Gregory introduced him. "This is Thomas. He's here to help on the line until we get the second hire in place. I pulled him from store 2, he's one of our best." Thomas gave a firm nod. "Name the station, I'll run it." Miguel pointed toward the flat top. "You ever work 2 burners at once? Try 4. By 6, the team was moving with a different rhythm, still fast, still sharp but quieter, more focused. Gregory worked from the corner of the kitchen, using a converted prep table as his operations desk. He didn't interfere with the line unless asked. His presence wasn't about micromanaging, it was about watching systems, seeing who really took ownership of what. At 7:30, the new dishwasher arrived. A tall girl with a buzzed haircut and a black hoodie stepped through the back door, looking around with a mix of uncertainty and defiance. "You must be Jordan," Gregory said. "Thanks for coming in early." "Yeah," she replied, dropping a canvas backpack near the lockers. "I wasn't sure what to wear." "Apron's fine, we'll get you gloves and a station setup." She followed him into the dish area, inspecting the machine like someone who'd fixed a few before. "This sprayer's leaking," she said. "I know. Maintenance orders in." She crouched to check the hose clamp. "Looks like the seal's loose. If you've got a screwdriver and some plumber's tape, I can fix it." Gregory raised an eyebrow. "You've done kitchen maintenance. 4 years in a co-op. We all rotated jobs. You'll fit in just fine." He handed her the tools. By 8, the breakfast rush started. Nothing overwhelming, but steady. Gregory stayed mostly in the back, listening to the cadence of orders, the way Miguel called for sides, the way Tasha confirmed pickups. Jordan worked fast, her sleeves pushed up, arms damp to the elbows. She didn't flinch when the first tray of egg-crusted pans came in. She just got to work. At 10, the lull came. Gregory stepped outside for a quick call with HR. He wanted to finalize the separation paperwork for Jesse personally, no loopholes, no chance of reinstatement. When he came back in, Rob was standing by the mop sink, arms crossed. "Greg," he said carefully, "something wrong?" "Yeah, upstairs." Gregory followed him through the back hallway. The office door was open and Kira was inside, pacing. She looked up as they entered. "I just got off the phone with Darren," she said. Gregory's jaw tightened. "What did he want?" Said he heard about what happened. Asked why I didn't loop him in sooner. Gregory leaned against the doorframe. "Because he's been signing off on budget cuts without ever asking how they're impacting the stores. He's our regional director. I know who he is." She folded her arms. "He says corporate's concerned about setting a precedent with all the changes we're making. Wants to know if that's sustainable across the board." Gregory stepped into the room and shut the door behind him. "Let me be clear. I don't answer to Darren, he answers to me. And any precedent we set here protecting staff, fixing broken systems, it's one I'll be proud of." Kira didn't speak for a moment. "You're going to replace him, aren't you?" "Not yet, but I'm going to hold him accountable." "Just like I'm holding myself." She exhaled, then leaned back against the desk. "I didn't think you'd actually follow through. I didn't think I'd failed this badly." Outside, the kitchen kept humming. Gregory returned mid-shift just as a customer left a handwritten thank you note on the counter. Tasha read it out loud. "Best service I've had here in years. Your staff actually looks like they want to be here." Miguel glanced over from the grill. "Weird compliment, but I'll take it." Gregory smiled. "You earned it." Around noon, a commotion broke out at the front. A man in a suit stood near the counter, holding his phone out like a badge. He was in his 40s with slicked hair and a voice that carried. "I'm looking for the manager," he said loudly. Tasha approached the counter. "Can I help you? I'm from Regional. Darren sent me." "I need to speak with whoever's in charge." Gregory stepped forward. "That would be me," the man blinked. "You're Gregory Wallace, owner." He lowered the phone. "Oh, I didn't realize you came all this way." "What's the issue?" "I was told this location's making unauthorized structural changes. Staff promotions, hiring without approval. I authorized everything. You can take it up with me." The man shifted uncomfortably. "There's a process for this." There was. "Then the process failed one of our employees so badly he ended up in the hospital. So I changed it." The man looked past him, taking in the kitchen, the staff working in tandem, the improved pace. "I'll report back to Darren. Tell him to call me directly next time." The man left without another word. Gregory turned back to the kitchen. No one had stopped working. At the end of the day, Jordan finished wiping down her station and tossed her gloves into the bin. Gregory approached her. "How was the first day?" She shrugged. "I've had worse. Nobody yelled at me." "That's our new standard, apparently." She gave a dry laugh. "I'll be back tomorrow." Gregory nodded. "Good, we need you." She grabbed her backpack and headed out the back. Once the doors were closed and the kitchen lights dimmed, Gregory sat at the same prep table he'd used as a desk. Kira walked in, a clipboard tucked under her arm. "We still have one open-line cook spot," she said. "Post it tonight. We'll pay above market." She nodded, then paused. "You staying the rest of the week?" "Every day." She looked at him for a moment. "That'll mean more than anything you say." Gregory didn't respond. He didn't need to. This wasn't about speeches anymore. It was about showing up. Gregory arrived before sunrise again, parking in the far corner of the lot where the gravel hadn't been leveled in years. The lot light above him flickered once, then went dark, same as it had the last 2 mornings. He made a mental note to get facilities on its small thing, but small things added up. That's how the problems had started in the first place. Inside, the kitchen was quiet, still warm from the closing shift the night before. A few clean pans were left to air dry and the floor had been mopped properly this time. Jordan had stayed late. She hadn't said anything about it, but Gregory had noticed the timestamp on the log sheet. He set his bag down at the prep table and pulled up the staffing chart. The open-line cook position still hadn't been filled. 2 applicants had walked out after interviews, likely spooked by the reputation the store still carried. Gregory understood. Reputations stuck longer than truth. The back door opened just before 5:30. Tasha entered wearing an oversized army jacket and carrying a thermos. She didn't speak at first, just hung her coat, washed her hands, and started setting up the front counter. "You're early again," Gregory said. She didn't look up. "I have to take the bus an hour early now. They cut the second morning line." He nodded. "We'll cover your transport until it's back. Use the company card, no questions." She paused, then gave a slight nod. "Thanks." The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of people who didn't need to fill space with words. By 6, Miguel arrived. His limp was more noticeable today. Gregory hadn't seen it before. "You all right?" he asked. Miguel dropped his backpack onto the bench. "Old injury, long shifts make it worse." "You haven't logged any medical accommodation requests." Miguel shrugged. "Didn't think it mattered." "It does now. I'll get you on a rotation that reduces time on your feet. You'll train Thomas to cover more grill hours." Miguel looked him over for a moment. "You're serious?" "I'm not here to waste your time." He nodded once and went to set up the line. By 7:15, the first customers filtered in, mostly regulars. There was a shift supervisor from the textile factory across the street, 2 construction workers from the gas line project, and a couple who always ordered the same thing: biscuits, black coffee, no sugar. Jordan came in a few minutes later, riding the tail end of a breathless jog. She dropped her coat, tied her apron, and walked straight to the dish pit without a word. Gregory followed her in. "You're not late," he said. "I know, I just don't like cutting it close." He pulled up a small stool beside her station. "I saw you stayed late again last night. I had to." Prep didn't finish up until after close. The line was stacked until 10. "You're not supposed to stay after your shift ends without approval," she kept rinsing. "Nobody else was going to do it. That's changing. Starting tomorrow, we're adding a part-time utility role to cover close-out crossover. You'll have help." She didn't stop working. "I'll believe it when I see it." "You will." The day moved fast. By 10:30, The line was backed up again, short one position, with Thomas covering both fry and sauté. Gregory stepped in to run Expo for an hour, calling out tickets, wiping plates, checking garnishes. He fell back into rhythm quickly, but the strain on the team was still visible. Even with morale up, the bodies weren't there. At 11, a new face walked in through the front, wearing khakis and a button-down too crisp for the kitchen. He spoke to Tasha briefly, then was escorted to the back. Gregory looked up from the Expo line as the man entered the kitchen. "Name's Mason," he said, extending a hand. "I'm the new hire, line cook." "You're early," Gregory said, shaking his hand, wanted to get a feel for the place before diving in. Miguel looked over from the grill. "Hope you're not afraid of grease burns." Mason grinned. "I've worked worse." Gregory showed him where to wash up and gave him a quick tour. Mason asked smart questions and paid close attention, but one thing stood out: he kept glancing toward Jordan's station when he thought no one was watching. By 3, the kitchen slowed. Gregory stepped out back to take a call from a supplier. When he returned, he found Jordan standing stiffly near the mop sink, arms crossed. Mason was beside her, talking low and close. Gregory didn't interrupt. He stopped just short of the threshold and listened. "Just saying, you're not really what I expected in a kitchen like this," Mason was saying. Jordan didn't move. "What does that mean? You know, the short hair, the whole vibe just caught me off guard." "Is that a problem?" No, just not the kind of look I'd expect from someone doing dishes." Gregory stepped forward. "Mason," he said, voice even. "Come with me." Mason turned, surprised. "Oh, hey, I was just making conversation. Office." Now, inside the upstairs office, Gregory closed the door, folded his arms, and faced Mason directly. "You made a comment about Jordan's appearance." "I didn't mean anything by it. You implied she didn't look the part for her role." "What part is that exactly?" It was a dumb comment. I didn't mean anything." Gregory didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "We don't do that here. You don't get to decide who belongs in this kitchen based on how they present themselves." "That's not just unprofessional, it's discriminatory." Mason shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, it was a one-off. One-off things don't happen in environments where people feel safe. You're done here." "You're firing me," effective immediately. "You'll be paid for the day." "But you're not setting foot back in this building." Mason scoffed. "Seriously?" Gregory opened the door. "Good luck at your next interview." He walked out without another word back downstairs. Jordan was back at her station, working as if nothing had happened. But her shoulders were tighter than before. Gregory approached quietly. "He won't be back." She didn't stop working. "I figured. You should have told me sooner." She looked up then, eyes sharp but steady. "I didn't want to be the reason someone else got fired. You weren't." "He was." She nodded once, then went back to rinsing. At closing, the team gathered in the dining room. The last customer had left 20 minutes earlier and the lights were dimmed to half. Gregory stood with his sleeves rolled up and a clipboard in hand. "We're still short one on the line," he said. "But we'll rotate with coverage until we find the right fit. I'm not rushing another hire just to fill a gap." Miguel leaned back against a table. "Fine by me, as long as they don't make comments about people's haircuts." That drew a few short laughs. Even Jordan cracked a small smile. Gregory looked around the room. "This has been the hardest 2 weeks this store has seen in a long time, and you didn't fold. You showed up. You carried each other when you didn't have to. That says more about this team than any balance sheet ever will." Tasha raised her hand. "Are the other stores getting the same changes?" "They will. I'm sending a full report to the board tomorrow. We're rewriting the operations and oversight protocols across the chain, every store, every role. No exceptions." Rob, who'd stayed through close to help mop, spoke next. "What happens when you leave again?" Gregory nodded slowly. "I won't disappear like I did before. I'll be on site every week across all locations. And I'm appointing a new regional director, someone who's worked the floor, not just the spreadsheets." He looked to Kira, who stood just behind him, arms loosely crossed. "She's staying on, but her role is changing. She'll report directly to me now." No more middle layers that block the truth. The room was quiet for a moment, then Miguel stood and clapped once. The others followed, not loud, not dramatic, just enough to say they understood, and they believed it. As the team dispersed, Gregory lingered near the counter. The register light buzzed faintly and the scent of bleach still hung in the air. Jordan stepped up beside him, drying her hands on her apron. "You did the right thing," she said. "I should have done it a year ago." She tilted her head. "You think things'll stick this time?" He nodded. "Not because I say so, because you'll hold me to it." She didn't say anything else, just walked back toward the dish pit where her gloves were still hanging. Gregory stood alone for a moment longer, then turned off the light above the register. And for the first time in a long while, he felt like the business he'd built was starting to look like the one he'd always imagined.